CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Welcome back to CMMS Radio. If you are listening, you can't see him, but if you're watching, that right there on the screen is Darryl Gratrix. He is production manager at MPC. That's Molded Precision Components. He and I have been connected online for a while on LinkedIn. Of course, that's where I like to play. And he's a huge, huge fan of the skilled trades, a proponent, an advocate. And we're going to get into all that kind of stuff. Instead of reading all the credentials, I'm going to first say, welcome, Darryl, to CMMS Radio.
Well, thanks for having me, Greg. I appreciate it. And yeah, might be a bit of background noise. I'm outside multitasking right now. I'm supervising 3 possible future skilled trades boys messing around in the pool. So as long as they don't drown each other, we'll be okay.
Yeah, and they're living the good life, hanging out in the pool. A lot of us probably wish we were having a pool of our own, because there's like a heat wave bouncing around all throughout North America, not just in the U.S. And you are up there with Molded Precision Components. I want everybody to just know before we get into the episode that you're a vertically integrated engineering and contract molding partner with over 40 years in the business, and your team is focused on consistently and competitively delivering anyone who wants to work with you, performance critical plastic components to approved print on time every time. I like stuff like that. We're going to get into that a little bit, but again, welcome to the show. And I want to jump right in with the skilled trades. I want to understand where and how passion developed, we got into manufacturing in the first place, and basically what inspired you. You go back, give us a little flavor.
Yep. I don't have that typical background story of getting into the trades. I didn't grow up, working on cars, and my dad did home renos. He came from a family of 5 boys who grew up on a farm. So I had a couple uncles who were farmers. So I spent a lot of time out there, picking rocks and driving tractors and moving hay. But yeah, growing up in high school, I really had no clue what I wanted to do, as an adult. I knew I wanted to go to university, but that was more for the, the life experience than the education. So I ended up getting a 3-year BA in geography. And then by my 3rd year, I figured I was going to have to do something else to get a job when I was done. So I'd been using a bit of AutoCAD and other softwares and really enjoyed that, and kept hearing that there were all these jobs in tool and die making. So I went for, I think it was around Christmas of my 3rd year, went for a tour at a factory with an older tool maker. And he made it very clear that, all the guys that worked for him were hands-on and worked on their cars and snowmobiles as a hobby. And, he didn't come out and say, this isn't for you, but, it might have been implied. So fortunately, I didn't listen to him and took a 2-year college course in tool and die and machining after my university degree. And then, the rest is kind of history. I spent 15 years in the stamping industry, repairing, troubleshooting, building stamping dies. And then the last 12 years, I've been in the mold industry. Same thing, started out on the CNC machines, kind of worked my way up to supervisor, manager, and then tool room manager for 5 years. And then, 6 months ago, transitioned into the production manager role.
So interesting when you make that kind of a shift. Now, I myself have seen it. I've heard about it. I don't know how many times. Haven't actually done that, maybe at a certain level, but in different environments. But I'm always kind of fascinated about how these transitions take place. So you really have a strong handle in the environments where you've been, with what you've done and the people you talk to when it comes to tool room, and now being more focused on the production side. Between both of those areas and some of the things that you did when it comes to making the dies and using different things, you get a little bit of exposure to maintenance. But when it comes to the transition into the production environment and being a part of that, what would you say was your biggest barrier to getting a strong hold on it? And then I'm also looking for a little bit of kind of flavor or color around what's so special about it. Like what are you finding that's rewarding about it? And you can attack that from
Yeah.
any angle you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a loaded question. There's a lot going on there. I spent the previous 5 years working as tool room manager. I spent quite a bit of time working with the production guys, whether it was process engineers or the setup guys. Because when you have issues with parts, whether it's flashing or shorts or there's a lot going on. So it could be tooling, it could be processing, it could be even your materials not dried enough. There's lots of things to consider. So I'd already started building a good relationship and rapport with the guys in production. And so, yeah, it was actually, part of my decision to go into that role was I could see we had a bit of a hole there. There was no one to make those decisions and kind of help drive the bus. The last couple people we had in that position didn't have any kind of technical background really, and so when issues would come up, there was a lot of confusion. Right, there was good old tool makers would say, well, no, it's the processing, and the processing guys would say, oh no, it's the tool, and there wasn't always someone there to help make the decision. And not that I am 100% correct all the time, but I've got enough background to help everyone make the right decision, or try and make the right decision. And between the team, usually we get it right. And if not, if it's not the tool or if it's not processing, then we try the other one.
So with all that, what's kind of cool for me, like I'm trying to paint this picture in my head where, having been on both sides of it now, it's almost like, I don't know, like speaking a couple of different languages or just slight variations on like what's important to this group and what's important to that group. They're different, but there's somewhere where it converges, right?
Yeah.
And we're always looking from a cultural perspective, how do we get them to both kind of see that and let go a little bit of their staunch positions. Do you have any, I don't know if it's advice, right, but more of like approaches that have worked for you to help them kind of see what one another is really adding for the organization?
Yep. That is the big thing, is that we're all trying to achieve the same goal, and that is keeping the presses running, making good parts, and shipping the parts on time. If everyone in the company doesn't matter if you're in engineering, accounting, scheduling, if everyone has that same goal and is working towards it, then you're going to be successful. And that was just something I learned maybe say 5 years ago as tool room manager. Someone had said to me, because when you think of customer, you always think of your outside customers. But he pointed out to me, he's like, no, in the tool room, production and engineering are our customers. And so, I really, really bought into that and started believing it, and, trying to get the whole team in the tool room to buy into that. And it's what, when there's a press down and there's something wrong in production, that's got to be priority, because when it's sitting down, we're not making any money, which means, that all eventually affects our pay or potential bonus. So the more the presses are running, making good parts, the more money we're all going to make at the end of the day. And so, when I transitioned into production, the good news is all the guys in processing, they'd already been dealing with me, and it was actually awesome feedback. They were quite happy to have me moving into that role and being able to provide the direction. And then we have a great group of people. Culture is very important. But when something goes wrong, you always get, well, we're gonna have to pull the press, and that's gonna take, or the mold out of the press, and that's gonna take me all day to fix it. But I've got, I never claim to be the best mold maker in the world. I'm nowhere near that. But we have guys who are way more talented. But, if someone tries to pull the wool over eyes and I know what's going on, I say, well, no, actually, that's like a 2-hour job. So, let's pull it, fix it, and get it back in. So having that technical knowledge helps with making those decisions.
Yeah, the other thing is, when you move over into that role, at least everyone on the team you were a part of course, you're part of the organizational team, but
Yeah.
now for them it's like, all right, somebody's there that actually understands us, and then he's
Yes.
going to start to
Yep.
understand them. So that's that thing where that convergence takes place that I think
Yeah.
is really important. A lot of things that we see in this industry, all of us, right, at all
Yeah.
different levels, is sometimes someone levels up or makes a lateral into a different department, and they're now in more of a leadership role, but they don't have or have yet to develop the leadership skills. And that's another place where things fall down. So I want to tie this all into kind of not just the organization, but I always want to shine a little bit of a light on maintenance, because
Yeah.
you might not do all of the maintenance, you might not understand every aspect of it. I too don't understand everything about
Yeah.
it. Like if somebody says, "Oh, Greg's an expert," well, no, I'm good. I'm good at getting
Yeah.
stories and getting these cool kind of insights. But how often do you see, and is it really a challenge? Because I hear about it all the
Yeah.
time, where maintenance takes a lot of bullets. They take a lot of the blame for things that might be more on the operator side of the house. And if you have seen that, have you used any strategies that help them all kind of come together and say, "Oh, wait a minute, let's let that blame game go. We don't
Yeah.
need that." Any strategies or anything that you can share on that?
No, and it's great that you're tying in maintenance, because I was just going to mention that they do fall under my umbrella as well. And again, I'm fortunate. We've got a great team. We've got a maintenance manager who's got lots of experience, a millwright who's probably got at least 30 years experience.
Nice.
And then we've got a couple of younger guys, and when we say younger guys, that means they're in their 30s. Compared to us, they're young. um, but they're really bright and eager and want to learn. And yeah, we've got a great team culture wise in maintenance as well. um, and from experience, to develop a team like that and build it, sometimes you've got to make tough decisions in terms of culture. So we're at a place now where we've got a really, really strong team. And yeah, it's part of that collaboration, right? We try not to play the blame game, right? We all know the reality is we all make mistakes, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I know, having been on the floor and been on machines for 20 years, I made more than my fair share of mistakes. So, it's funny. I found, even when I was transitioning to supervisor and still trying to run machines and supervisor, I was always way harder on myself when I made a mistake than I ever was on anyone else when they made a mistake. But yeah, in terms of your question about trying to dodge the bullets that people are try and aim at each other, yeah, we try and avoid that and work together. And like everything, it always goes back to communication, right? Um, I think that's where I would say my biggest role now is with the maintenance team. Is they've got all the technical expertise. There's not much I can offer there to help them. But the big thing is with prioritizing, and kind of being that in between with scheduling and production is, if a machine goes down and they're in the middle of something, then I can help them, figure out if they need to switch over or just keep going with what they're doing. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that I've got very strong teams in the different areas technically, and then it's my job just to help coordinate and make sure they're all working together.
Yeah. So essentially, because of the fact that you have the right kind of a culture, and I don't know if right is the correct word,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the a culture that is moving in the same direction. They're essentially bought in on the overall goals of not only what they do, but what they do to empower everybody around them to produce these things, right? It could be
yep,
anything. When you have that, now you've got something where you can start to leverage some technology, provided the different players, so to speak. I'm going to call this our team players,
yep,
that they understand why they're using it. That's another thing that's really common, not just on the podcast, but throughout the world of manufacturing, maintenance, facilities management, is we ask people to do a lot to create the documentation and develop these, we'll say, databases of information we can use for better decision making, problem identification, maybe preventive maintenance optimization. I shouldn't even say maybe about that. Eventually you want to optimize PM so you're not over PMing, you're not under PMing. But do you find any resistance when it comes to, hey guys and gals, we need you to use and log these things in a piece of technology? Maybe it is a computerized maintenance management system, maybe it's an ERP, maybe it's an EAM, enterprise asset management solution. But do you find some resistance to that? And if you do or you don't, what improves it in your view so far? Like, I know you're still in the midst of this and figuring that kind of stuff out, but can you share anything on that works well for you and your team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Trying to think, maybe 4 years ago, we started using Plex as our ERP system for production. Mm-hmm. And so for the last year and a half, maintenance has been using the module that came with it. So they're, anyone in the company can go in and make a work order for maintenance, and then maintenance is using all those work orders to kind of make their game plan for the day. And then we all know in the world of production and manufacturing, that usually changes 5 minutes after you have your plan and the first machine goes down or something happens, right? But, it gives them a good baseline. And then in terms of other softwares we're using, and this is great timing, we literally just implemented this a couple months ago. We have what we call the MPC portal. So we're very fortunate at MPC to have 2 or 3 guys that their hobby is actually programming. So, we had a guy in the tool room who loved it, and he, made a program for us for like a machine down notification. So at night, because we only run a day shift in the tool room, in the evening, if a machine went down, it would notify us, and if we need to go back, someone could go back. And we could have purchased that software, but by letting him do it, he got to do what he loves at work, right? And then we benefited.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. And then we've got one of our engineers who the last year and a half has been developing this MPC portal. So what it is, and it stemmed from something really basic. You know how it is with big companies and their file systems. If I wanted to find a drawing on from a mold, I've got about 10 or 12 mouse clicks to get to that drawing. Yeah. And this guy's great. That drove him up the wall. And it's what drove him to develop the software. So now, you type in the 4-digit mold number, and then within 2 clicks, you've got your drawings, all your drawings. So that's a simple example of it. But now he's pulling information from Plex. We have our ALS system is kind of a press monitoring system. We have mostly Arberg's. It's one of their systems. So he pulls from it. He can pull from Excel, Smartsheet. I know I'm missing something, but basically any other software, he's pulling from it. So the information's all accessible in one spot. And so something we just kicked off was downtime reporting for the presses. So yeah, now press goes down, or let's just say it's time for a mold change. So the setup guys, they carry tablets with them. They put it into setup mode, change over the mold, and let's say they go to start it up and the press won't work. There's an air leak or an oil leak. Then they put it into downtime for maintenance unplanned. The maintenance guys come do their thing, and then when they're done, they put it back into production mode. And so since we implemented this, or when we did implement it, the feedback's actually been awesome, because we were worried about, how some people may say, oh, this is extra work and what are we doing? And even some of the older guys in setup that we were worried about, they all love it. They think it's great. So now we've got way more accurate data, and it's live. They're out there using the tablets, and then if I'm at my laptop, I can look at the downtime reporting and see, press number 8 has been down for 24 hours. Why? Oh, we're waiting on a part. It's to get in for maintenance. Or, it's I know there's a part that's really hot and we need to get it out the door tomorrow morning. That press is in changeover right now, and half an hour later I can see it's up and running. So yeah, it's turned out to be a powerful tool. And the best part is, so far everyone really seems to be buying in and embracing the technology.
So that right there, as I think about that, I think about all the conversations, the challenges, the successes, the wins, all this stuff where teams buy in. One of my favorite things about technology is when it's born from within. So you might have this tech, that tech, and then somebody there that kind of gets it, and it's already kind of generally naturally part of your working process that already works for you and your team.
Yeah.
That's one of the barriers to success when someone gets a CMMS or one of these other solutions. It doesn't meet the actual needs of what's already successful within the organization, whether it's the maintenance team, the operators in production, or the engineers that have to focus in on design and solving for maybe design flaws, things of that nature. And this is one of my favorite things about tying the idea and the concepts of culture and basic fundamentals, whether it's fundamental maintenance excellence or fundamental excellence in and of itself for the organization. When you get that gelling, and then someone internally ties the things together and they're like all about it, you don't have those barriers. So I'm always fascinated about how and why technology sticks. And I always think, and I talk about it all the time, it comes back to the people, and then it comes back to the leadership, giving them not only a voice, right? Because everybody does that, but usually it falls apart after that. But actually turning it around. So you probably have a lot of interaction with the team that reinforces, kind of from an ad car perspective, what they're doing. They know that you're looking, they know that it's helping the whole organization. And I love that stuff. I want to switch to something a little more, well, okay. I want to get back to the skilled trades.
Okay. Before we go there, could I just, before I forget, in terms of the whole company philosophy and the culture, we're very fortunate. We've got 2 owners. They're both mechanical engineers, but both very hands-on. So when MPC has been around since 1980, but they bought it in 2006. And it was basically a production shop for molds. And so they bought it. So for the first year, it was the 2 of them, and they ran the place, did everything, like building the molds, all the accounting, you name it, they did it. So they're very hands-on. So we're very fortunate that they're very practical that way and both very hands-on. But it was probably 6 or 7 years ago when we started our culture. So it's based on 3 core values, and those are integrity, innovation, and collaboration. So that everything has been built around those values for the last 6 years, including our hiring practices and our performance reviews are all based on those values as well. So that's kind of the, if you want to say, the foundation of our culture. I mean, it was still pretty good before that, but since we've implemented that and been focusing on it and built it into all our systems, that's what has really brought things together for us and put us where we are now.
That's one of the powers of mission statements that a lot of people think it's just something to put on a website or something to say, but when you be it, when you live it, and you make that a focus, on one hand, some people might say it sounds silly, but the ones that really get it, they know that it's the thing that sets that, as you said, foundation for everything else that's built upon it. And it sounds, I'm always, it sounds kumbaya. Well, it kind of is, but it actually is impactful. So great jumping off point to get back onto the skilled trades, because that has a lot to do with those things too, and where people pick up values along the way, what they're interested in. So I had this question that I think you can handle this any way you want.
Yeah.
What are people missing? And I'm saying people of industry, parents, when it comes to the future of their children, and the youngsters themselves with the skilled trades. What are they missing? And then you can follow that up with, what are they getting right?
Yeah. So let's start with and I guess big picture, we're all missing and it's that, especially for us in our trade, machinist, mold maker, tool and die maker, I would hazard to say maybe 5% of the population have ever heard of us or know what we do. Whereas, your plumber, electrician, carpenter, HVAC, most people have heard of them and have at least some idea. So that's a big one, is the lack of knowledge. So no one knows what we do. So of course there's nobody getting into our trades. And then when they hear that you're in a manufacturing environment, everyone's got that image of the factory in the movies, and it's dark and dirty and dangerous, and they're like, who would ever want to work in that, right? So that's one thing we're changing. Trying to get lots of people through our facility. We have 2 buildings. The one building we just opened 3 years ago. And, so when Dave and Tom designed that building, they took everything that they learned over the last 17 years in the old building and were able to implement that. So there's lots of light. It's super clean. So when we do bring people through, we get lots of compliments like, oh, you only see that type of facility in Europe and things like that. But yeah, in terms of the skilled trades, yeah, it's a loaded question. I mean, I think I'm the prime example, right? Up until the last year, or maybe a couple of years, what was I doing to help bring in the next generation of skilled trades? Like, basically nothing. So I don't think it's just up to industry or government or education. I think it's also up to those of us in the skilled trades that love it and believe in it, and think it's a great career option. We need to get out there like we're doing and spread the word so that kids and parents can hear about it, right? Yeah. Parents have lots of concerns about, well, if little Johnny goes and becomes a machinist, is he going to be stuck doing that for the rest of his life? Like, then we can tell them, no, not that there's anything wrong with that, right? There's so much to learn in machining and in programming. You could do that your whole career and always be learning something new. But if he shows leadership skills and wants to get into supervising or management, then there's that career path. There's always the sales path, whether it's machine tools or machines. Can go into design. We have a couple guys who were in the machine shop who went into design. One guy works in our metrology lab. So there's lots of career growth opportunities when you've got the trade as your base, right? There's my path.
Yeah, I think the possibilities are endless, and I think a lot of people kind of slept on, and we maybe we didn't know it. We allowed this gap to create itself. We fueled it without knowing it because we started focusing on other things. And for me, I think I'm seeing, I'm kind of skeptical, but I think I'm seeing kind of a shift backwards. And it's really interesting for me when I look back and then I kind of gather up all the conversations I've had, like in this moment right here, right now. And I look at all that. I think about what the differences are when people work in the skilled trades at essentially any level. It could be the HVAC, it could be the welder, it could be the electrician, it could be the plumber. They do great work. We need that work, and the higher quality of work that they can do, they're really in a great position to build great lives, make lots of money, employ people, and keep promoting the trades. In manufacturing specifically, you have all kinds of other things because you bring up the CAD CAM systems, the rendering. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a big supporter of what's called All Within My Hands, the All Within My Hands Foundation. That's Metallica. That's why I got the shirt back there. Yeah. And they have a program called Metallica Scholars,
Yep.
and it allows it's not just for kids, it's actually for adults that want to reskill. And they don't just have welding, they don't just have HVAC. These different schools also have programs that are in CAD systems. There's programs in automation. So now we're starting to see that get very, very manufacturing centric. And some of their big sponsors that really support everything that they do are also manufacturers themselves that have both national and global footprints. So this is all really like fascinating stuff. And I think the number one thing we can all do is not only capture your story, but maybe reach one person here, one person there. Maybe some parents will start to say, "Oh, I heard about this thing." I don't know how many parents are really listening, right? But they're going to consider their kid might want to go check out a factory or production environment and see what they like about it. So you guys do that at your location with maybe local youngsters or even college kids that get to cruise through?
Yep. We have our local college in Barrie's literally like a 5-10 minute drive. So usually once a semester, and I'm good friends with one of the instructors there, he'll bring through his theory class for tool and die or molds and bring them in for a tour. So yeah, that's one avenue. Another one, and I always love to share this story, is last year we started bringing in high school guidance counselors for tours, and did another tour this year. But in March there was an open house at a high school, so I went. And the teacher that was organizing it, I said, "You look familiar." And she's like, "Yeah, I was at MPC last year for the tour with the guidance counselors." And she said, "Yeah, I was impressed so much by your facility. That was what inspired me to start this night so we could share it with all the kids." And she had, I think, close to 300 students out that night, about 20 different vendors from all different trades.
Nice.
So yeah, it only, it was a good reminder. If you're giving a tour, whether it's one person or 20, you only need one person to get the dominoes going and spread the news. Yeah.
I love the way you put that, to get the dominoes going.
Yeah.
I hope I can find a graphic to go with that.
Yeah.
Because it's very well said. Well,
yeah.
In the interest of time, because I want you to be able to hang out with your boys and maybe even jump in the pool yourself, I have to switch you into what all first timers on CMMS radio, most typically, maybe not all of them, I have to suffer through what's called the fun question segment. Are you ready for that?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
All right. Yeah, just bring yourself, your heart, your soul, your mind, and we're just going to rip through these. No wrong answers here at all. So the first fun question, Darryl, what is your favorite music?
I grew up in the heydays of alternative in the early 90s, like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Metallica, definitely that early to mid 90s, definitely my favorite still.
Good stuff. All right, fun question number 2. Again, no wrong answers here. Yeah. What is your favorite sport or hobby? And on sport, it does not have to necessarily be one that you play. It could be one you like to root for, cheer for, something like that.
Yeah. I played hockey since I was 4 or 5 years old. Actually, I stopped playing a couple of years ago. I was goalie for the past 20, 25 years. And after a while, my knees didn't like that. So I haven't played the last couple of years. But yeah, it was definitely always my favorite sport to play. And yeah, I don't, again, just getting busy. I don't watch as much as I used to, but yeah, still, there's no sport that's as fast and action packed, in my opinion.
Yeah, real quick. I don't always do follow up questions in the middle of the fun question segment, but as a goalie, have you ever taken like a shot right to the mask?
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to say something else, but yeah, I've took a couple shots off the mask. Yep,
and a couple of the other ones.
Yeah.
We'll move on. Now, here's the big one. So speaking of that and everything we talked about today, no wrong answers. I always got to remind you. What is your philosophy, perspective, opinion, anything at all when it comes to this idea of work-life balance?
Yeah, I think, in my, everyone's got their own belief system, but, For me, it's definitely God, family, work are the top 3 priorities. And I guess maybe that's why I am kind of late to the game and promoting the skilled trades is I've got 4 kids between the ages of 22 and 11. So that was always the priority. I tried, like everyone, there were times when stuff had to be done and I'd go in on a Saturday. But it wasn't, I didn't make it a habit. It was, if we needed to do it, then I would go in and do it. But I wasn't one of those guys, looking for Saturday work. It was always family first, especially when the kids are young. And I guess I was fortunate to work, probably the first 7-8 years of my career, I was always the young guy. And so the guys that I was working with were only 7 or 8 years older than me, but they always said, because they had kids before me, they're like, you know what, you're not going to get this time back. So spend it with them now. It's going to be over before you know it. And, when you hear that, you're always like, yeah. But, now I'm saying that to all the young guys.
Yeah. No, this concept, we get all kinds of answers, it's not a thing. Oh, it is. I see it as integration, not work-life balance. And it's why I say nothing's off limits, because this is someone also gets a little bit of insight and kind of a flavor for you and how you are and how you kind of move through this world. So I love that you're willing to share all that stuff, everything today. I really appreciate you being on CMMS Radio. I want to remind people, you can hit up mpccomponents.com. That way you can look into MPC and what they do. But Darryl, what is the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to start their own conversation?
Yep, definitely on LinkedIn. That's the platform where I spend most of my time, especially now that the kids are older and want nothing to do to me. That's why I've got so much time to spend on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Or if you want, I can give you an email to share in the show notes after.
Yeah, send that to me and I'll put it in the show notes. That way people can just reach out, because a lot of people do want to talk to you. They follow you. I've seen incredible growth in your followers over the last year and love to see you out there. So again, Darryl, thank you for being here with me on CMMS Radio.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
You got it. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.